Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I haven't been doing study videos like this lately, but I thought it would be helpful to show you guys how I manage my time and how you could manage yours. It's taken me a few months to figure out how I'd present this, so let's get into it. Let me get this all clear. I'm not a psychologist, licensed or otherwise. What I'm telling you is from my personal experience in research and processing. I don't have home responsibilities, so most of my time can be devoted to doing what I plan to do with it, so I don't really have work. And finally, this is to help people make a system, and it takes time. So, okay, let's talk about time management. I think my version of time management would be better explained with a little illustration my parents taught me back in grade school. Imagine your time is a jar, and anything that takes up your time fills up the jar. So for everyone, you have big things and small things that you can use to fill up your jar. There's big things like your basic needs, food, water, and sleep, and all your responsibilities and work. Then there's small things, which are other things you can fill up your time that isn't necessarily going to achieve your goals, but would be fun. So that's like taking naps, playing games, watching shows, or working on your hobbies. I had this issue before, but I would fill up my time with small things first, then tell myself I'll just make space for the big things. But when I do that, I don't get to fit what I need to do and just keep carrying on the work from day to day. So the better option would be to figure out how much space your big things take, then use the space left by the big things to fit the fun. Yes, you would need to sacrifice some of your fun to fit the big things, but that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice them altogether, since rest is also something you need to make sure you have enough of. I think that's the best way of illustrating my time management philosophy, making sure that everything you need is done without sacrificing rest and fun. That's why watching anime has become such a staple of my routine. To help make it a little bit easier to understand, I've broken it down into 4 sets of 4 concepts. So that's 4 general steps to create a system, 4 sets of questions to ask yourself, 4 parts of a planning system, and 4 basic ways to plan your time. It might seem linear, but it's actually more like this, where the first set of 4 is the overarching outline and the 3 are subpoints. Don't worry, I'll try to make it as simple as I can and give you some examples based on how I made my system. So the outline we're gonna follow is my 4 general steps to creating a time management system. This can be done if you already have a system and you just want to improve it, or you're starting from scratch. Step 1 is to ask yourself some basic questions. So there's 4 types of questions to ask. The first is about mental preparation. So it's, are you willing to exercise the discipline of planning? Are you willing to exercise self-control to stick to the plan? And are you gonna commit to doing it consistently? Of course, my answer would be yes to all 3, and that can be summed up in the way I figured out as a non-major to get my system I have now. I couldn't have gotten to this point without exercising discipline and self-control, but also going back to it when I miss a day. If you do miss a day, just make up for it the next day and keep going. Don't let that stop you. The second set is about knowing yourself and how you work. So the questions I have are, why are you not planning now? Why did you give up before if you've tried? Do you have procrastination or mental paralysis? And are you internally or externally motivated? My answer for that is the reason I didn't plan before was because I didn't know how. And I've given up in the past since I didn't like how the planners were, specifically their format. I'm a very determined person, which is internal motivation, but I'm also very grades motivated, which is external motivation. Even if I do have a lot of motivation, I tend to stop since I get mental paralysis, especially when I feel overwhelmed with the amount of work I need to handle. So I do want to adjust that. The third set is about what to plan. You need to know what you're placing in that system. The questions are, what do you need to do first, which are your priorities? What do you need to do, which is your responsibilities? What do you want to do, which are basically the fun stuff and hobbies? What are things you can't change? And how much time do you actually have? Just to clarify, your responsibilities and things you can't change are supposed to mean different things. For example, doing schoolwork and studying is my responsibility, but the time of my synchronous classes is the thing I can't change. Then when you have all those listed down, go to bit.ly/timesched, capital T, capital S, or just click the link in the description. You'll be taken to a page where you can make your own chart like this. This is what I mean by how much time do you actually have. You can just input what things you can't change. You can also see that I have a minimum amount of sleep that I'd want, and that's listed on the chart. The areas left empty are the times that you need to manage and the time you actually have. The last set of questions is about how you plan and your preferences. You can already know when you start or discover this as you go. This should at least help you decide the first way you're going to try. For that, the questions are, digital, physical, or both? Daily, weekly, or monthly format? Do you want all of them, 2 of them, whatever combination you think you need? And how precise do you want to go? I'll walk you through it later, but I do prefer physical planning, but I started needing digital because of the online setup. I like a combo of monthly and weekly, with the weekly being very precise, where it's split into half-hour increments and I plan my day by time. You don't have to have your exact answer now. I've developed this over the past 2 years. But if you do have preferences, then that can influence the first style you try out. Okay, we've done enough soul searching and thinking about it. Let's go gather supplies and take inventory, which is step 2. Get all your stationery if you're going physical, and then list down all the devices and software you have if you're going digital. Also, look at your pre-existing systems you already have to see how they're working for you, if you want to integrate them into the new system or get rid of them entirely. When I first started, all I had was a set of colored pens, paper, and a few highlighters. I knew I didn't have the budget to buy a planner in the middle of September. I used to plan all my days in desktop sticky notes, one for daily work and one for due dates. It wasn't really working for me at the time since I did miss homeworks back then, so I needed a complete overhaul and replace those desktop sticky notes with something better. You might not need the same drastic measures if you just want some more improvement. Next is to identify the issues you have with your current system, step 3. Why you think it's not working and what you want to do better. For me, and what I showed to you in step 2, I had 4 main issues with planning and 2 things that I have to change in myself. For the planning system in itself, the lists were too vague and didn't give me a sense of how much time I have left since my week would expand depending on how much I added and the due dates are just a list of dates. Second problem, they became easy to miss. Since they were just in the background of my computer, there came a time when I just forgot about them and wouldn't bother to look at them. Third problem was the way I did it back then, I had no way to archive anything. When the day was done, I just erased the day. So that was really hard trying to recall when you've done certain things, especially when you need to be accountable to others. And then the last is the late start I had to planning in September. It wouldn't really be cost effective to buy a full planner to only use it for the remaining 4 months of the year. Then I had 2 other issues that were more personal than about the system itself. The first was that I was doing too much work for what I could handle at the time. Back then, it was still face-to-face, and I was handling 18 units of classes and a council position in a different org. But frankly, it felt more like 2 council positions since I was handling both internals and finance. I know I'm doing more now, like 15 units of class, a council position, applying for the debate org, making videos weekly, and I'm hosting and attending Bible study groups, or D groups for short. But for past me with 0 time management, I just couldn't handle it. So I did have to resign from that council position while I tried to get a better system in place. And the last issue was just my lack of self-control. I just do whatever I want and stuff whatever's due into the time I had left. That was a huge problem since I'd have to stay up till 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. working on it, or just not pass the work at all. Last is step 4, which is create something that tries to solve your problems and go do it. Okay, let me get this clear. It's try to solve your problem since there is a lot of trial and error when it comes to finding and creating your own system. You won't find a perfect one in one go, or situations will change so you'll need to adapt. It's better to create a system and fix as you go than just sitting there waiting for a perfect system to come your way and then start. Look at what you already have, look at your problems with your current system. What can you already do now that can solve at least a few of your issues, if not all of them? I think there's 4 basic parts of a planning system that you have to keep in mind. First is a task dump, where you need to place new tasks when they arrive. They can just be a legit list of things, or you can already schedule them as they come in. Second is a due date, basically when the thing needs to be done. Third is the due date, which is when you're planning to work on it. Last is the dopamine kick. It's the thing that keeps you using the system. It has to be something that makes you happy to finish a task. Usually, it's just a checkbox or a shaded circle. I needed something to address as much of the problems as I mentioned earlier. I started off with planner printables that I found online since they're free and would make use of my stationery. Since I knew I needed to take more control, I went for my first timed weekly. To address the time vagueness issue, I added a monthly calendar to that weekly to add deadlines with more perspective. If you want to test out planner styles, I have a link to my free printables in the description. So how can you start planning? Here's 4 basic ways to start planning with its own pros and cons from simple to more complex. First would be the super simple to-do list. Just list down everything you need to do, super easy, and it can be done physically or digitally. But it's hard to get any sense of time when you just have a list, even if you do add the due dates onto the list itself. Second is a plain calendar, or just what you'd call a monthly. It does give you a sense of time more than the to-do list, but you might run out of space to allocate what you need to do for your day, especially when there are a lot of due dates coming up. Third is a planner, which is super easy to buy with not much setup needed, but it can come in so many different layouts that you might not like. For more details on planner styles, you can check out my video on it. Fourth is a bullet journal, which is highly customizable but also very time consuming. Of course, just using a bullet journal as it was originally designed is a lot easier than making elaborately designed monthly setups like you can see on this channel. But the fact that everything is gonna be made by you is still gonna be more time consuming than just buying a pre-made planner. But it's great if you have a very specific style of planning that doesn't appear much in pre-made planners, like I do. I've talked about how I used to plan with my desktop sticky notes, and you've seen how I planned in my original planner videos back in 2020. But how do I do it now? So let's go over it as a part of the basic parts of a planning system I mentioned earlier. Task dump, due date, and dopamine kick. Then go through all of them chronologically. So my task dump is my weekly to-do list, my Discord brain dump, and my org's accountability buddy system. My due dates go on my monthly calendar on my bullet journal and on my Notion page. My due dates, or when I do things, is all centralized in my weekly layout, and my dopamine kick is shading in the circles or changing the Discord emojis. Let me explain this in the order of how I use them. First would be my Notion page, which I've already made a video about. So my Notion is strictly for academic stuff. I don't use Notion to plan my daily since I do prefer physical planning, and the more you add to Notion, the slower it loads. But I like this so I can keep things like my Zoom links and grade trackers here. I also input stuff from my syllabi to just have a running list of ACAD work that my profs have laid out for me. It's an adaptation I had to make when transitioning into an online setup. That's the first one since the task entry is per semester, and I just check stuff there when they're done. The second would be my monthly calendar. That's where all my due dates are for everything. Academics, YouTube, org work, personal. This just gives me the overview that I'd like to see. It has the shows that I'm watching, important dates to remember, and it's the hub of my color code since it can change depending on my subjects. This is also supported by my future log, which holds the due dates when the monthly isn't available yet. Next would be the accountability buddies, which is a system in my org where you post your task list for 2 weeks on Discord, then you edit your tasks to signify that you've done as you go along. It's just a long to-do list sorted by topic, and it's super helpful for me since I do sometimes need that external accountability. And I need to be able to see my work as a whole since I do tend to hyper-focus on a specific day. Then from the Discord list and monthly calendar, I have a weekly to-do list that I make every Monday. It serves as a holding spot for all my tasks before I distribute them within my week. So those are what I hope to accomplish within the week, and it's up to me to schedule those when I can. This gives me a concrete list of things to work with without having to immediately schedule everything when I'm gonna do them. Second to the last part is the weekly, which is how I track what I'm planning to do for the day. This is my staple ever since I got into time management. I like having my time very controlled and precise with having to label what time I'm working on something. My format for my old planner and now my bullet journal addresses the issue I have of just putting stuff in the day without scheduling it, or the issue with labeling classes that end in 11:30 when the box is supposed to be for an hour. Last is my Discord brain dump. I have a super jumpy brain and I'm very easily distracted, and I'm also handling a lot of different things. So sometimes when I'm working on something, I'll think of something else that I'll have to do and then jump to that because I don't want to forget to do it. But in the middle of that, I think of something else to do and go do that, leaving me at the end of the day with a lot of things started but not done. So with that, I have a Discord server that helps me keep my thoughts organized. If I have something to tell myself to do later, I just place it in my brain dump and I check it later and do the thing. When it's done, or at least placed into the schedule, I can give it a check and move on. I know I have a pretty complicated looking system, but don't let that stop you from trying to make your own. You can start with just one system and just build from there, since mine came from 2+ years of adapting and adjusting to what I felt like I needed and getting rid of things that have no use anymore. So I hope that gave you guys some starting points to work with when it comes to making your own system. I know a few of you have been asking me for a time management guide. How are you guys making or improving the system you already have? What do you think is the most helpful tip? If you also have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this from me, then hit the subscribe button and the bell to know when a new video is out. I try to upload every week, Monday nights at 8. I guess that's all for this video. Bye guys!